How much does it cost to start up or run your small business? We're going to run through a bunch of costs for you today on the Kawartha Small Business Podcast. We've got business conversations for the Kawartha commute, and I'm Brian Rump.
And I'm Matt Garrity from Matty G Digital.
Awesome. So today we're going to go through what it costs to run a small business. This episode of the Kawartha Small Business Podcast is sponsored by Starting Point Digital Marketing. You know you should be doing digital marketing, but never seem to have the time to do it right. Your small business deserves to have good digital marketing that is quick, easy, and inexpensive. Starting Point Digital Marketing provides intentionally simple marketing designed just for you. Head over to startingpointdigitalmarketing.ca to get started now. All right, Matt, how much does it cost to run a business?
I'll give you a Brian Rump answer. I guess it all depends, Brian. There's a
Yeah,
lot
it
of
does.
factors to consider.
There is. It depends on everything. And I think one of the reasons why we wanted to have this conversation is to just run through some of the, main categories of a business and give some ranges to people, because I think so many people they don't know how much things should cost. So then they get into a business thinking, okay, I need to make this much money to break even. And then all of a sudden costs start coming in and they're like, oh man, this is way more than what I thought. So they're sort of flawed from the start. I'll also preface it that, the knowledge I'm coming at for this episode is from, a career working locally with small businesses in banking, grants, accounting. I've seen hundreds and hundreds of financial statements. So I don't know the exact answer to any of this, but I can just give a flavor of some of the ranges that I've looked at for some of these things. And I think, one of the biggest mistakes people get into is they don't understand their costs before they start.
Sure.
And then they're just surprised by it right away, and they don't have a backup plan. And it's crazy. The other pitfall is not spending enough money on certain things because they think it's expensive. So they don't have an idea of what they should be spending on, certain categories, or they try to cut it when really they should be paying more maybe for it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think a big mistake that has been exposed throughout COVID-19 with business owners, in my opinion, I said it. I hate saying in my opinion when I'm about to say something. But the biggest thing I've noticed this past year was people's expectation of business owners and businesses that we're all rich, elitist people that have like a ton of savings in our business. Then if things have to be shut down or quieted, that we're swimming in swimming pools of cash like Scrooge McDuck. And it's just not the case, because there's these monthly expenses that I don't think a lot of people know of, especially maybe even new budding entrepreneurs, about what this topic is all about, like what it costs on a monthly basis to actually run your business. And like I just started working with Greg Evans Professional Corporation back a few months ago, and like putting together a lot of this sort of like revenue in, revenue out expenses. And I'm starting to like pay a bit more attention to my expenses the last couple of months. And I swear to you, like every week something comes up where I'm like, oh, I wasn't tracking that. It's just one more little thing that I wasn't paying attention to. And I'm adding it to this spreadsheet and recognizing like, man, there's a lot of stuff that I'm spending money on, which I think is often shocking to people from a service perspective.
Oh yeah, I think people yeah, you don't know until you're in it. And then even when you're in it, this is another conversation, but I work sort of part time with Greg Evans for helping get some businesses, working with people to adopt bookkeeping and accounting. Most people don't know, or they do it once a year and they're like, oh, how much did it cost me to run my business last year? And I will tell everyone, if you're in that boat, we need to fix it right now, because you need to know all the time, how much does it cost to run my business last month? How much does it cost next month? How much cash do I need? Cash is the lifeblood of our business. We need to know what's coming in and what's going out. Um, and the other part of that is we can't just always cut everything that's going out, because you could be cutting your muscle, right? You know, your expenses should be investments in your business, and they should be making you more money. And you should need to draw a line to each one of these things of how they make you more money, and make sure that, they're producing, or you're doing the things with that to produce it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a bit of a rant there.
Yeah. So where do you want to start with what things cost?
That's a good question. I think, let's start with something like rent. Because I think rent is one that I see people not fully understanding. And it's one of those big ones that's hard to change, because you can't just magically move wherever you want. There's only so much land and spaces available. As any real estate agent will tell you, the top three most important things are location, location, and location. So when you're starting a business, or if you're in a business and moving, rent, if you're bricks and mortar, um, is going to be a pretty big strategic expense, because as you get closer to the best locations, your rent is going to be higher, because usually someone's already figured that out, depending again on what your business is. So, you need to know, do I need a location? So that's another thing. Can you work from home? Is it important that you have a space? Where does that space need to be? If you're retail and you're going to rely on walk by traffic, you need to be where people are going to walk by. And you can't be, in your garage in, 20 minutes away from a population center, right? So you need to know where that's going to be. So this is rent, maybe one of the hardest ones to give a range to. Um, I, I think this morning, as I was preparing a bit, I saw a place in Fenland Falls that's sort of a nice commercial spot. It was $1,700 per month for what that is. I've seen, retail places that are 2,500 a month, or 4 or 5,000 a month for sort of small businesses. Um, there's also more costs for rent. This is maybe a whole conversation for another time. It's, you have your rent. You also typically have what they call TMI, which is taxes, maintenance, insurance.
Yep.
So sometimes that's included in your rent. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's paid monthly. Sometimes it's paid annually. You get a bill. It's like, surprise, here's your bill for your share of all of our taxes, all of our snow plowing. Oh, the roof broke this year. Guess what? You're paying your share of that. And building insurance, not business insurance.
Yeah.
So, yeah, go ahead.
So yeah, like I was gonna say the Fenland Falls property that's $1,700 a month. Is that including the taxes and the insurance, and like you said, like utilities, heat, hydro, water? I think on Kent Street in Lindsay, you're probably gonna be looking at anywhere around like $10 per square foot. plus another $6 per square foot for the taxes and the insurance. Plus, like, you're going to get tax on top of all of the base rent and all those different variety of things. Like, you're going to be looking at anywhere from like $2,000 to $3,000 for anywhere on Kent Street, really.
Yeah, for at least for a small place, right?
Yeah.
If you're downtown and you want to be downtown. So I think that's where it's understanding all of those costs, understanding the cash flow as well. So the other, you know, you're going to be paying, HST on that rent, whereas sometimes you're thinking, oh, or you think, oh, I'll get that back eventually. Well, you still have to pay it out.
Yeah, that's like the
So
thing that drives me crazy too. That's one of the dumbest things you hear people say is like, oh, it's like a tax write off. Well, like, it's a tax write off for more than a year because you're going to have to pay it out of your pocket for a year. And then you're never actually really getting that money back as a business owner. The government's not turning around and handing you a check. Like, it's just coming off of your taxes later on.
Yeah, so it's one of those, it pseudo works itself out, but from a cash perspective, you want to know how much cash is going out. And then knowing that is, again, these are investments. So one of the things I'll see is people will start looking, they think rent should be $1,000 a month. And you're like, oh no, actually it's 1,700. But the place you want to be is 2,500.
Yeah.
But then they'll like say, okay, well, I want to be in that one, but that's expensive. But you're right in where people are walking more. You're going to get more traffic. It's just a nicer place to go. The parking's easier. So you really have to, think through from your customer's eyes where you want to go, and what you need. What volume of traffic do you need? If you need a lot, if you're selling, when I was at the bank, we would say soup. I make the greatest soup. Well, at $3 a bowl, you got to sell a lot of soup to pay for your rent. So maybe you need a lot of people running through your business. So you want to be where there's more people. If you sell maybe a higher ticket item and you're going to do more marketing to bring people to your destination, then maybe you don't need to be right in the thick of everything. You can be a little bit out and you're going to pay a little bit less on marketing, or a little less on rent, but maybe you're going to invest more and do more in your marketing. So it's finding that balance of what works for you.
Yeah, I don't even know what the cost of those utilities would be. Hydro.
It's going to depend on the quality of the building sometimes. Like, people will be like, oh, I got this great location downtown. It's an amazing historic stone old building with old windows and no insulation. And
clay
guess
roof.
what? My customers want to be warm when they're in there. They don't want to be hanging around with their, freezing cold. So it's, there's a lot of things to look at when you're getting into something like rent. Some other costs, things like insurance. So, business insurance. This is one where, just quickly, I recommend, talk to a few different brokers and have conversations regularly about what exactly you need, because this is it depends, because different types of businesses are just going to have different types of risk that they're going to have to protect. So it can be anywhere from, say $1,000 a year, although I don't think I've ever seen one less than 1,000. Realistically, it's probably $1,200-1,300 a year, up to tens of thousands of dollars per year for insurance.
For a physical location, for sure. I don't know what it would be like from a service perspective if you don't have a physical location, but if you have a physical location, like, you have to have business insurance.
Yeah, most places, insurance is just something. Usually you need it to get financing. You need it for lots of reasons. Some people cancel it and go without it. Again, big risk. but it's one of those ones that's going to depend, and you don't want it to surprise you. So you have to be able to do your business plan and know what these costs are, for you to be able to, run your business, and just know what your sales need to be every
Yeah.
month.
So far, we've got
Yeah.
like $3,500 a month, and you don't even have anything in your store at this point.
No. Yeah. And where we should have started too, and this is where I like to start, is you're a business owner. I am on a mission to make sure that people are profitable and making a living as business owners. If you are running a business, you need to be making some money. Personally, I think if you're running a business in the Kawarthas, even a small business, if it's your where you spend most of your time, if it's a source of your livelihood, you need to be making at least $60,000 a year. You need to be taking some profit above and beyond that as your reward for being a business owner. That's a kind of a bold statement. I think it realistically needs to be over 100,000 if you're supporting a family on that. And I would bet that I know most businesses aren't anywhere near that. I used to have a joke when I worked at the bank: if every business that wasn't paying their owner minimum wage shut down, we wouldn't have any businesses around. So you have to factor in your own wage and what you want to be making before we even start, because otherwise, why are you doing this? Which is maybe a conversation for another time, but you don't get a special pension for being a business owner who lost money your whole life.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
My response, I think it's clear now to people that me and you are very much on the same page. I don't want to get too much into this because I will go off for an entire podcast. I pulled up quickly an email that I literally sent to my accountant yesterday when we're talking about paying myself, as I just moved over to an incorporated business. And she's like, we need to talk about how we logistically do paying yourself, like if you're going to pay yourself. And I replied, I'm 100% paying myself. I literally cannot fathom why anyone starts a business to not make themselves money. We're not charities. Why are we starting a business if we're not going to make money? It's like starting a job and not getting paid for it. I'm done. Sorry, I can't go on anymore.
Awesome. I like it. I'm very bold about this. It's one of those, like, I am on a mission to solve it. So again, if you are listening to this and you are not making that much money, you need to call me right away, and we are going to put a plan in place to change that. We'll say politicians will clap for you. They will come stand outside your business and take their picture. But they are not giving you any extra money at the end of the day for that. So, we're at, you got to pay yourself, say $6,000, we're getting close to $10,000 and you haven't even hired anyone yet. So again, people is the next one. I think people underestimate what the cost is for people. You can't be in your business all the time, especially if you're retail. So you need to hire someone. So a full-time person basically starts at $2,500 a month. You factor in their wage. There's, vacation pay, CPP, EI deductions. You're looking at, 2,500 to say 5,000 a month or more per person. So you have to think, if I have a giant store, I need more people to be there. If I need a smaller store, less people might be needed. But you got to have that strategy as well. And guess what? They're going to want to get paid the first day that they're there, not only if you make money.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're going to be cheap and not hire people or not hire enough people, that's cutting into, then you're jeopardizing your customer service in your location. Yeah. You're jeopardizing like the logistics and everything. Like people walk in there and they can't talk to someone, you're toast. They're never coming back. So
Yeah. Yeah. So you need to have some people there. So yeah, next up is something like marketing. So tell us all your prices, Matt. What's
yeah.
marketing?
So I'll just run through my whole price list for everyone if they'd like. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Marketing is like you should be working with someone to do your marketing. You do not have enough hours in the day to figure it out on your own. It's going to take you, let's say, modestly 10 to 30 hours every month just to do some social media, which technically is free for you to do. Marketing's one expense, but I will share some costs of my own for my own marketing when we don't even consider that we don't even really consider to be marketing. So having a website every month costs you money. It costs me like $25 to $30 a month just to have a website. Plus having
that has nothing on it.
yeah, and
if you want something on it, that's extra.
that's extra, and like you have to design it, and someone needs to build that themselves, so yourself, or get someone else to do it. Your website needs to sit on a domain, so like the website needs to be connected to www.mattigdigital.com. That domain costs, let's say, a few dollars every month. And then you're looking at if you want to have a professional looking email, so matt@mattigdigital.com versus having some, I'm going to get myself in trouble, some Bush League looking email that's yourbusiness@gmail.com. That costs money every month to have. It costs me money for every time I send out invoices and people pay for those invoices online. That costs me money. But just some things like from a marketing perspective you never think of is like your website, where it sits and how people get a hold of you. Like that's all marketing in itself. And that's going to cost you, say, this is like really cheap, but like $30 to $50 a month just for those little things that you literally wouldn't ever consider, most people.
Yeah, at time, I think, and realistically, if you have again, serious business where you're trying to make 100 grand a year for you and your family, like you're going to have to spend money on marketing because people aren't going to randomly know you exist and come into your store to help you make the sales you need to generate that kind of cash. So, in a way, I like to sometimes frame these conversations with marketing last, especially if you're a brand new business, because I think another mistake people make when they're brand new is they try to do their marketing on their own. They don't invest in any marketing and they just somehow expect people to magically know that they're there and what they offer, what problem they solve. And it's a really, really slow start. Whereas if you can get that start a bit faster from the start and grow quicker, you're going to be generating more cash right away, and you're not going to be sort of losing as much money up front.
For sure.
And if
the argument I hear a lot of the time with marketing, especially out of the gate, of course, is the cost perspective. But at a minimum still, people will say like, I don't need to do marketing. Everything's referral based. It's going to be word of mouth. I've got a lot of great friends and family that are going to support me. You still need at a minimum a half decent looking logo. You definitely need a website and you definitely need social media, because those people aren't going to hear about you from their friend at lunch and then just immediately walk into your store or call your business up. They're going to have that conversation with their friend. They're going to hop on their phone. They're going to check out your website. They're going to check out your social media to learn more. And then they might call you and reach out to you. So if your business is based strictly on referral and word of mouth, and you think, man, I'm making like 90% of my business comes from that. Think about how much business you're losing if you don't have a website and word of mouth, because you could be getting twice as much just by having those if you don't.
Yeah, I always say, like, imagine how good you would be doing if people knew you existed.
Yeah.
If you're one of, I've heard this from businesses, and they're like, oh, people come in all the time, and they're like, I didn't know, when did you open? And they're like, oh, 5 years ago. It's like, imagine if that person had bought from you once a week for the last 5 years, like how much better and extra you'd be doing. So, again, marketing's just one of those investments, and all of these costs, are investments, and they help enable you to be able to, make money, and that's what we're here to do. Next up is something like accounting. So that's my turn to talk about all of our prices here at, say, Greg Evans. And this is, again, I could be generic, but a big mistake people make is they want to pay nothing in accounting and do it all themselves. Some people try to do their own tax returns, or they see accounting as only for the purpose of doing their tax returns, which they don't want to do because they hate the government. But really, as we talked about before, you need to know how much cash you're bringing in. You need to know how much is going out. You need to know if you're making money, and you need to know these things, in my opinion, in real time or as close to real time as we can get. So, and if you're running a business that's a corporation, there's some rules and compliance things you have to follow, and you have to do some annual filings. So there's some work that needs to happen that's just part of getting into running a business. And those costs can range, from, you're probably looking at a couple thousand a year at the very low end if you're doing as much as possible on your own, to, 5, 6, 7,000 a year for a small business. Some are more than that. What we would maybe call bigger small businesses in, say, even Kawartha Lakes would probably be spending more like 15 or 20,000. We could split accounting into sort of the compliance stuff, but there's also, things like bookkeeping, and, bookkeeping is one of those fascinating things that's getting more and more automated. I think you still need people looking at it. Depending on your business, you might be trying to do some of it yourself. You might be hiring some staff to do elements of that. You might have a full-time bookkeeper. Some people have multiple full-time bookkeepers, depending on their business, to manage accounts receivable, payable, so it's one of those that it depends, but you have to go in with the mindset that there is a cost to doing that, and that having good organized data is going to help you clearly see what your business is and help you make decisions to grow that. So, it's an investment that you need.
Yeah, and I think you're going to lose money in the long term, or spend more money, so essentially losing money, if you're doing your own account and bookkeeping. And you're losing money from a resource perspective. It's your own time versus having the who of someone else doing it. It's not a good situation to be in.
Yeah. So I think, accounting's one. A few other things on the list I have, coaching. It's something most businesses don't do. But one of the things I've learned, whenever you see the really successful businesses, they have a team. They might have multiple coaches for different things, or they're hiring, professionals. They have a finance coach. They have a marketing coach. They have a leadership coach. There's personal development in there. So having a budget for that, I think, is good for most small business owners. Like, you need at least, I think $300 or $400 a month. I know someone who's made an incredible change in their business in the last year, and is probably, a $200,000 or more swing. They spend about $1,500 a month in total coaching. A great return on investment. You got to find the right one. Some are not very good, but that's a cost to look at. So yeah, and I think that kind of covers a lot of generic things. If you're a business, you have inventory, you might have to finance that inventory. You might have inventory that doesn't sell, so you got to factor in, the cost of all that stuff you bought that no one wants. That's maybe a podcast episode for another time. But these are, the things that, sort of make up the costs. And as we add them all up, it's, a pretty hefty number. So we have to hit the ground running and be bringing people in and, generating sales.
Yeah, and that's all just from a retail brick and mortar breakdown. Service is different. You can arguably get started with a lot less and run a lot more lean monthly, for instance. Like you don't have that $3,000 a month rent sitting over your head, but you're still talking about paying yourself, paying other people that are working with you to grow as you grow. You're still talking about marketing. Like when I started my business, everyone's like, oh man, it's like so easy, like no barriers to entry. And it was like, I just needed a laptop and like a good laptop, which is kind of scary. That's almost my livelihood. If my laptop goes down for any sort of time, I'm in big trouble. But you don't think also like to run the business, you need from a service perspective when you're working at home, you need your phone. Phones aren't cheap. Phone number, you need your internet. Even those little costs are going to add up as you go.
Yeah. There's really not sort of a free business to run. Again, services, you might need a truck, you might need tools, equipment. These things are going to break. They're not a surprise when they break. So you're going to need them sort of over and over again. So, this is, we've taken a really big conversation it depends for every business and just trying to throw out, some generics, but, again, it depends for every business and you need to know it. You need to not be surprised by it. And you need to structure your sales and marketing and your operations to be able to, generate the kind of cash you need to be able to run that business. Any other thoughts, Matt? I think we're getting pretty close to the end of our commute.
We didn't even scratch the surface on that one. And the more that conversation went on, I realized that's a 9-hour podcast that we'll never do.
Yeah. So again, if you're listening to this and you are mad that we are not doing the other 8.5 hours, we'd love to talk to you individually. So you can reach out to us at setitup@kawarthasmallbusinesspodcast.ca.